and I had used this manner of showing you Choctaw nanta apatok, Choctaw nanta apatok. And I think what seemed to be escaping some was that we didn't go over or review the word order of a Choctaw sentence. The word order of a Choctaw sentence tells us that the subject is going to be first, and it's going to be followed by the subject marker. Then we have nanta in the object position, and apatok is our verb. Subject, object, and verb. The word order of a Choctaw sentence, where you have Choctaw as the subject. And reading on down on the information, it says, notice in A and B above that Choctaw is the subject of the sentence, and what it ate is the object. So nanta appears in the object position. And I said, going back to that information about another way to think of this is to consider where the answer to the question would be. So here in the question sentence, we have the question word nanta in the object position. And so in that object position, we also see, we're also going to find the answer in that same position. In the object position, we're going to find the answer to that question. Choctaw shonshi apatok. Choctaw shonshi apatok. So keeping in mind, you have to keep in mind the word order of a Choctaw sentence, the basic sentence. I know we have learned pronouns. We're going to incorporate those pronouns as well. Choctaw nanta apatok. Subject, object, and verb. And in the answer, you're still going to find the object position carrying the word shonshi, which is an answer to nanta. So when you look at these two sentences, the only difference you see is that object word. The only difference you see is that object word. And then in C and D is where you see the question using a pronoun as the subject of the sentence. And those pronouns, when they're used, when those pronouns are used, they're going to be placed in relationship to the verb. The pronouns are going to be placed in the sentence in relationship to the verb, either before it, le is the only one comes after it. Then we also have the unmarked third person that has to be taken into consideration. Nanta ishhoyo. So here we have ish as the subject. So nanta is still in the object position. Ish is the subject, so nanta is still in the object position. And by using the word le, it places le after the verb, which is correct. Le is the subject, shukbo is the object. And you still find that in the same position where you would find the question word nanta. And again, that goes back to another way to think of this is to consider where the answer to that question word is in the sentence. They are both in the object position. Nanta and shukbo are both in the object position. So this word order changes when we're using pronouns, because the pronouns we've learned are going to be shown attached or right next to the verb. whether it's before it or after it, le being the only one that's going to follow it. Okay, let's look at this in another way. Suppose these are the only two words we had. Nanta hoyo. Nanta hoyo. You have the word nanta, that is not the subject. You have the word hoyo, that is not the subject. So you always have to rely on that you have to rely on the verb to determine who the subject of the sentence is, or what the subject of the sentence is. Nanta hoyo. You know the word hoyo means to look for. Well, nanta is not the person looking for something. So this is where you're going to ask yourself those questions. You know someone is looking for something. Who is looking for something? Who is looking for something? Then you would learn to rely on that third person. Nanta hoyo. What is she looking for? What is she looking for? And then following the same sentence. Shukbo hoyo. She's looking for a blanket. Shukbo hoyo. So all of these changes that you see in the structure of a basic sentence when you're using a subject noun, or when you're using a subject pronoun, or when you're looking at the unmarked third person as the subject. All of these have to be kept in order, so when we grow into another lesson that uses a different terminology or a different concept, you will be able to recognize that and see that there is a change and make those changes accordingly. We still have to rely on our basic sentence, but when we learn a new concept, we need to incorporate that and keep in mind the changes that are made, especially in that sentence structure. Okay, and then going on down to the next paragraph where it says when a K word or a question word is the subject of the sentence, it must have a subject marker. This marker is not at. Instead, we use another subject marker, osh. Often we don't use the contracted form because I don't want the confusion to become greater by throwing in something that you may not be ready for. You might hear it in the speaking, and that may be a little more confusing. So understand that hosh is going to be that marker that we're going to use. We're not going to go into the clipped form, the SH. I know we had that clipped T form back when we were learning the sentence structure of the structure of a basic sentence. And the clipped T was suggested that it could be used. Yes, it can be used, just like the SH form can be used. But that's attached to a word that, like I said, with the SH and us not using apostrophes to show that there's a change or words, letters that are deleted, it could tend to confuse. So I suggest not using the SH form, but the HOSH. The HOSH is going to be used when there is a noun phrase that is the subject of the sentence. And we get into more on how to use osh and on and those markings, but right now we just want to understand that hosh is going to be used to mark a subject of the sentence, a question word as the subject of the sentence. And the example we have here is natahosh mahikia. Natahosh mahikia. So we have already understood that when you have hosh marking the subject, That is the subject. Nanta Hush. What is standing there? And also another way of looking at this is to think of how we translated those question sentences. How did we translate those question sentences? We began by changing this into a statement. There is standing what? Or there stands what? Putting it in this order, this is going to give you, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I didn't need to do that. I completely gave that a whole different twist. I'm sorry. What is the subject? What? What stands there, or what is standing there? I said to change this to a statement, but you don't need to change it to a statement because it's going to be that question. Because when you change that statement, it's going to put what in the object, and we don't want to do that. What is the subject? What stands there, or what is standing there? And again, get at that. You have what in the subject position. We know that because here we have nanta marked with hush. Hush tells us that nanta is the subject of the sentence. And then in the book it says that tall tree. So looking at this, you see that all of this is in the subject position. Nantahush, what stands there? That tall tree stands there. What stands there? That tall tree stands there. Hush is going to mark nanta when it is the subject of the sentence. When it is not the subject of the sentence, you will see what the subject of the sentence is by the subject marker at or by the pronoun. Okay, I'm going to clear the screen. Okay, let's take a look at this one. We've learned how to use micha in a sentence. Anki micha sashkia nanta pinsatok. Anki micha sashkia nanta pinsatok. So here we see nanta in the object. No, it's not given. Okay. Here we see nanta in the object position. And here we have a noun phrase that is in the object position. Anki micha sashkia nanta pinsatok. Anki micha sashkiat hoshi lakna pinsatok. Okay, following this same sentence structure, the topic, I'm going to make another sentence. Nanta pinsatok. Nanta pinsatok. And still following the same topic, we're talking about Anki micha sashki. Nanta pinsatok. What did they see? What did they see? And this is where you're going to rely on that verb to tell you who the subject is. We've established that Anki micha sashki are the subjects. So the next question, Nanta pinsatok. What did they see? What did they see? Hoshi lakna pinsatok. They saw a yellow bird. They saw a yellow bird. Let me find. Let me find another term here. Okay, using Nanta as the subject. Nanta hosh palaska apatok. Nanta hosh palaska apatok. Nanta hosh palaska apatok. Ufe upuyat palaska apatok. So here this is showing Nanta as the subject, followed by the subject marker hosh, ufe ukpulo. And I follow that with the word yat. Ufe ukpulo yat palaska apatok. Subject, object, and verb. Napunaklo hashinshi. Okay, I'm going to give you the same assignment. make two sentences, one using Nanta as an object, one using Nanta as a subject, and send with your translations. Okay. Everyone has their work in. Okay, this first one says Natahosh ahoponi anta. That does not say who is in the kitchen. That says what is in the kitchen. And you can use the word nanta. Some want to use it as who. We haven't studied who yet. There was a question about my use of Natahosh palaska apatok. It could be anything that you would call it. That's why I put Ofe Opulo yet palaska apatok. It could be Pinti at palaska apatok. It doesn't have to be a who. That's why I put Natahosh palaska apatok. Ofe Opulo yet palaska apatok. Pinti at palaska apatok. Hoshi at palaska apatok. It could be anything that we could determine as it. Nata does not mean who. And the next one says Sashkiat Nata Hoponi, that is in the object position. That's a good sentence. What is mother cooking? The next one I see Ahatagat Nata Pinsatok. What did my husband see? Natahosh Bashli. Bashli would not be a proper usage here because Bashli is the act of doing something. Bashli is the act of doing something, so this can't be used to mean what is being cut. Basha would be the term for this. Natahosh basha, what is being cut. And here again, just keep in mind the differences between basha and bashli when we had those forms to look at. Let me Basha would be the adjective, and Bashli is the act of doing something. So Bashli would take a, if you're going to use a pronoun, it would take an agent pronoun, or it would take a noun or noun phrase as the subject of the sentence if you're going to use Bashli. Bashli is the active verb. Basha is the what we would consider the passive verb or the adjective. And this one says, Natahosh at hatak pinsatok. What did the man see? You can't use, the man is the subject of the sentence. So you couldn't use the marker hosh and you couldn't use the marker at after nata. Hatak is the subject of the sentence, not nata. So that's a misuse of the marker hosh and the word at. If you were going to say, what did the man see? You would say, hatak at nata pinsatok. And you would put the subject marker after hatak. You would not mark nata as the subject of the sentence. Hatak at nata pinsatok. The subject marker would go after hatak. Nata ish pinsa. What are you seeing? Or what do you see? That's a good sentence. Using nata as the subject. Nata as the object of the sentence. And this one, Natahosh talowa. And here again, to use this term, I would think of something that we are going to call it as the one singing. Natahosh talowa. Hoshi at talowa. I wouldn't use this to mean my daughter. That would come under the term of who, and we haven't studied who. Nanta hosh taloa, I would say hoshia taloa, a bird is singing. And the next one says chola nata osh. Chola nata osh. Okay, you didn't finish the sentence to say what did the fox do. And we don't use malli. Chola nata ash malli. Okay, we haven't studied the word for jump. Okay, when you use or horse, you're going to use, that will be using nata as the subject of the sentence. But you haven't completed the first sentence and you want to give an answer to that sentence. And the answer to the sentence, to the question really isn't necessary. Just make a, when you use nata as the subject of the sentence, it will be a question. So you don't have to answer the question. And this one says, Nata hoshika, what is flying? Shonkaneyat nata hoyo. Those are both good sentences. And again, when you think of nata as doing something, as or being somewhere, then think of something that you can refer to as it. That's why I put ofi in the example that I had made. Nata hosh palaska apatok. Ofi poloyat palaska apatok. Or it could have been pinti, it could have been hoshi, it could have been katos, a number of things that you might refer to as it, not a who. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to who, kata, on page 51. If you'll mark your page for 51 for kata on Wednesday, we'll begin there. Perhaps this will give a better understanding of the differences between kata and nata. Nata is what, kata is who. We can't say nata and say it means who. We have a word that means who. Napanaklo hashishi. Okay, again, mark your page 51 for kata, and we'll begin on Wednesday when we come back. Chibisa lachiki, nakoki.